So about 20 years ago, we were dismantling an old tobacco warehouse, and I bought all of these old carts for 20 bucks a piece. Yeah, they look a little rough, but let's see what we can do with them. Tops are off. Let's go ahead and start with this one, because I know that this is one that I want to refinish because it's not painted. I want to try to keep as much of the old look as I can, but clean it up. So I'll be needing to make a top for this cast iron. This cast iron is in pretty rough shape. We've got a lot of pitted rust in here. This needs to be cleaned up. Do not want to take away from this cast, but I do not want it rusted. I want more of like an industrial look, not a rust look. So I'll do some sanding and polishing on this stuff. And this big set here, it's going to be fun because there is a lot of rust. And this sucker's heavy. I mean, the frame of it's all oak. And then all of this cast iron, I know it weighs over 100 pounds and it's just awkward, but it is what it is. Let's see if we can bring this baby back to life. I got one. Seems like over 100 years people have replaced different bolts. None of them are actually the same. Do not want any of this cast to hit the ground because it will shatter like glass. We're getting there. Okay, so we have most of our cast off. So we've got all of our casters, our leveling brackets there, and then the big heavy set of main wheels. Now these I'm going to have to try to clean up in place. These were actually board holders. You would put a piece of square stock in there and it would keep your lumber from actually rolling over. If I tried to remove these, then I'll actually damage the frame. It's actually a pretty cool design. The rods ran into the wood and then out to the sides like this. And then anytime that this cart would loosen up, it's all that you would have to do is tighten these up and it would actually tighten the entire frame. So I have to clean these up in place. I'll have to tape off areas. So I do not want anything to happen to this main frame that's already split. Okay, so now we have all of the parts off that we're getting off. And as you can see, I've been trying to keep all of my bolts with the parts that they were removed from, just to make sure everything kind of fits back the way it is. Now it's time to get dirty and start cleaning these babies up. So to clean this stuff up, I'll probably first try to use just like a light wire brush, just as long as it does not actually put scratches into the metal, just to remove the dirt and exterior rust. After that, I'll be using penetrating oil just to kind of break down some of the rust that's on there, and probably have to do a lot of light sanding. So keep from getting oil and rust and everything everywhere, let's set all of this stuff on a moving blanket. Alright, so that was a dirty job. Most of the surface rust and dust has been removed. Ended up just using some quadruple zero steel wool. Next, I think that I'm going to try to clean up some of this dust and dirt because it's everywhere. And we'll probably start soaking it with some penetrating oil. So now that I have the surface rust removed and the dirt, I'm going to spray everything down with some penetrating oil. And what this is going to do is help to keep the dust down whenever I actually go to sanding on some of this. And it will also help to break down the rust that's on there. I'll let this sit for a while, and while it's working, I'll start taping off this cart. So I'm going to let this soak for a bit. Okay, I'm gonna have to get these rail holders off. I'll just have to be real careful while I'm doing this. I just don't think that there's any way that I can clean these up while they're in place
without affecting the wood. So I guess I'll go ahead and do that. Well, that one was a little easier than I thought. Hopefully the rest will be that easy. Nah, spoke too soon. Pretty much all the hardware is off of this now, and I need to start cleaning this up. But again, this is one of my worries, is this hardware here. I want to get this off actually, but the only thing that is holding the whole cart together is this rod that goes through. You still have a top board on each end, a couple in the center. I'm thinking or hoping if I can get this rod out and this hardware off, that the top will hold this thing together while I can work on this and work on this without damaging the wood. Fingers crossed. I'm going to give it a try and we'll see. Okay, I got both of the rods out. Right now the cart is still together. It's actually being held together by these main beams, which are being held together with this board. As you can see here, there's not a whole lot holding it together. Those big tension rods that I just took out, that was pretty much all of the support, so I have to be really careful with this. All right, so I finally have all of my hardware cleaned up, have it down to the patina that I'm looking for. Like I said, I did not want this like really bright metal, and I also did not want this painted black. Most of the time whenever people restore these old carts, you know, they just take the easy way and just paint everything black and call it good. But this is the patina that I was going for. More of an industrial look where you can tell that it's been worn, used, but just not covered with rust. Now it's time to see if I can do anything with this. What I'm gonna have to do, this is the plan for now, is leave these boards on, clean all of this frame up in place, and then I'll have to put the tension rods back in. That way it doesn't fall completely apart whenever I take the top off. Which really at this point, if it did fall completely apart, it looks like it'd be pretty easy just to slide back together. So it actually may be easier if I took it apart. Let's just go ahead and take the whole thing apart. It's all notched in. Should be a piece of pie to put back together. Should be. Gone this far. Let's go the rest of the way. All right, so here's my cart. Did not actually plan on taking this thing apart to this point, but in order to get the look that I want, is what it is, and I'll do it. So the next step for me is going to finish these sides. Now, I really do not want to go real deep with this. For one thing, I do not want to remove any of this stencil. It may lighten up just a bit, but I just want to lightly sand this and actually put a finish on it. There has never been a finish of any kind on this wood. So I think if I can lighten up some of the dark spots, get a nice finish on it, really make it look good. But there's some oil stains, things like that, that will just add to the look. Time to start sanding. And then I'm just going to do some very light sanding because I do not want to take off the original stencil. Okay, so this is the level that I took it down to. I really like it. And here's a tip. If you ever want to see what wood would look like with a finish on it, just put a little bit of mineral spirits on one side. It'll dry, go away, fade back to this color, but it will show you exactly what it will look like with the finish. It's gonna be awesome. So anytime that you do any type of sanding on something that you're going to be applying a finish to, you really need to clean this material with a tack cloth. All right, so now it's time to put the finish on. And I've actually decided to go with an oil-based finish because I'm trying to keep the natural colors. So the oil will soak in and actually pull out those vibrant colors. Did a little sample piece here using Maker's new stain sponge. Again, I'm not sponsored by this company, but these things are awesome for anything. I usually use these things for stain, but for this teak oil, it's going on like butter. I'll make sure to throw a link in the description for the Maker products, as well as the discount code that they have provided for you guys. So while we let that oil soak in, we'll start working on our top. I think that I've found the perfect material. So before you start judging here, the main thing about reclaiming anything, you have to be able to see what's underneath of all the dirt and grime and paint. I think that this is going to clean up awesome, keep that rustic look, but also tie together the dark hardware with the lighter sides. This wood was the flooring in the tobacco warehouse where the carts came from. So the cool thing is all these cuts and grooves, deep gouges and marks that's actually in this material came from the wheels of these metal carts rolling over it for years and years and years. Kind of ties it all together. So really hoping this stuff's gonna work. Now this is going to take a lot of sanding, so I'm going to try out 3M's Extract Random Orbit Sander and their Cubitron 710W sandpaper. You know that sandpaper that I use with the funky designs to help keep it from overheating. I'm going to start off with an 80 grit and work my way up to about 320. And actually this was the first time that I had used the Extract Random Orbit Sander, and this thing is pretty awesome. It's super quiet and smooth as silk. Like I'd mentioned before, I've actually found a place that carries the sandpaper in smaller packages instead of buying in bulk. So if you're interested in learning more about the Random Orbit Sander or picking up some of the sandpaper, I'll throw a link in the description. Okay, so I know you're still a little skeptical about the wood. So are you ready to see the magic happen? Check this out. Now these are the natural colors. Again, this is just teak oil. I'm just pushing it around, letting it kind of get into the grooves. And look at that color. This is no stain, straight up natural. And this is why I love reclaimed wood. And this is what I was talking about when you have to see what's underneath of all the dirt and grime. You have to be able to see what's underneath of all the dirt and grime. And once you do it long enough, you'll be able to find the diamond in the rough. Stuff that other people will burn, this is it. So this is before and after. So I've just laid this top on here. I'm gonna have about 3 inches of overhang on one side. Instead of making the cut where I actually lose my live edge here, or my natural edge, I'm gonna take the center board and remove 3 inches from the center. Hopefully it'll butt back up and we won't be able to notice it, and we'll still have natural edges on each side. And I'm going to attach the top boards just by using strips. This cart is already heavy enough as it is, so let's make it to where the top can be removable. And there's the finished product. So we have taken an old broken down cart, rusted to pieces, and made a beautiful piece of furniture out of it. This thing will make a perfect coffee table for a living room, but I know exactly where this one is going because as soon as I told a family member about what I was doing, it was spoken for. But again, just keep in mind when you're out and you see something that may be broken down but has some pretty neat attributes to it, kind of like these cast iron wheels, just use your imagination and try to picture what it could be with just a little bit of creativity.